Thank you for watching Super Bowl tonight. I am your host, Fidel Barraza, alongside with me tonight, Justin, Walter, SK, Kendall, Costa, and Clayton, the QB Whisperer. How's everyone doing?
I'm good. I just left the gym, so I feel like I'm about to be in the Super Bowl.
Can't complain.
Perfect. Yeah, hey, it's Wednesday. The game's almost here. So let's talk about Super Bowl 55. So it looks like Kansas City's COVID issues are not going to be an issue. All players have tested positive or negative so far, on both teams. So we can kind of throw the COVID thing out the window for now. But let's start out with Justin. What are your initial thoughts on the matchup for Sunday?
I think we've talked about it all week. Two very high-powered offenses. Brady's kind of been there, done that. Additionally, Mahomes was there last year. He's certainly played in plenty of big games. Obviously, not as much as Brady, but maybe 20 years from now we'll be saying something different. But I think it'll be a great game overall. I just think it's going to come down to who has the ability to stop the other team.
Walter.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much on the same wavelength as Coach. I think when it comes down to it, for me, it's that wide receiver matchup. Even though they're not playing directly against each other, but in games like this, you need your big-time monster receivers to play like big-time monster receivers. And if you go back and you look at that first matchup back in the regular season, Tyreek destroyed 13 catches, 209. He had a touchdown of 75, a touchdown of 44, and a touchdown of 20 yards. That was pretty much the major difference in that game. And given the fact that the Chiefs were actually able to jump out early 17-0 in that game. So if you look at on the other side of that with Mike Evans, I think Tampa did a pretty good job against Mike Evans that first game. When you play in Tampa, you have to take someone away. And if I'm going to take someone away, I'm going to take away the 6'5" guy who gets all the 40-yard, 50-yard jump balls downfield. So he only had 3 catches of 9 targets that first game. Tampa pretty much erased him out of there. And Tampa, they put up a good fight. They put in a long run at the end, 4-14 in the fourth quarter, made the game pretty much look closer than what it was. But aside from that, to me, it was Tyreek Hill and the 2 turnovers from Brady that were the major difference in that game.
SK.
I'm looking more on the defensive side, piggybacking off of that wide receiver point. I'm looking at the DBs and how they're going to match up with those wide receivers. Because I have no doubt in those wide receivers' ability to make big plays, but I do have the doubt with those cornerbacks possibly bottoming up. As you mentioned, Tyreek Hill had a huge game. So I'm going to be looking to see, especially how they play Tyreek Hill too. They go put double team him, or they go have a safety over him, which some people can work underneath, which I think would be a mistake because Kelsey can kill you underneath. One of the best tight ends in the games. So that's going to be the key matchup for me is how they're going to play Tyreek, how they go play Mike Evans, and if they do double team them, how is the coverage going to be for guys like Godwin and the other second-tier receivers. And on the flip side, how is it also going to be for those second-tier receivers on the Chiefs, and just how that matchup and coverage is going to be rolled to those high-end receivers that we can't wait to see, which is they have some of the best in the game on both sides.
Yeah, and we'll talk about those matchups here shortly. Kendall, let me get your thoughts.
Yeah, I kind of agree with SK there. I want to see how the Buccaneers can play this Chiefs offense. Are you going to choose to take away Kelsey, or are you going to take away Hill? You can't really take away both of them. And if you try to double both of them, you still got Sammy Watkins coming back from injury. McCole Hardman's coming in. Robinson. The Chiefs got. Robinson and Hardman. They can be pretty decent number 2s on another team. I think they can. They're pretty good. And in some cases they could be a number 1 for the other team. So the Chiefs, they're deep and they're young and they're fast. So, and we seen they gave Tampa all fits a couple months back when they played. So I want to see that. And then second, I want to see from Tampa, is this the game that Gronk finally breaks out? I think this might be a big game for Gronk. Either Gronk or Cameron Brate, one of them will have a big game this Sunday.
Costa.
Yeah, I'm looking really at the run games on the two teams because I think that, as you guys said, they're two high-powered passing attacks, and it's going to be really crucial for the two teams to be able to establish the run and get productivity out of their running back side. That Rojo Fournette tandem has to be getting some good chunks for the Bucs if they want to win this game. And on the other side of the ball, I'm thinking the Bucs are going to have to try so hard to stop this passing attack with Kelsey, with Hill. They're going to need those running backs to not only be able to run the ball well, but also to be able to get those checkdowns and turn them into chunk plays too. I'm thinking like Clyde Edwards-Helaire might have an opportunity to get like 6-7 catches in this game, and if he can turn those into first downs, that's going to be huge for the Chiefs. So I think that the run games are really going to be a key factor in this game.
Yes, and we'll come back to Clayton here. He's got some technical difficulties going on, but let's talk about some matchups. So let's talk about this Tampa Bay offense against this Kansas City defense. I know a lot of the time we've talked about Tampa's defense against KC's offense, but let's talk about Tampa's offense against KC's defense. Let's start out with Justin.
Well, I think big storyline. I think you guys touched on it already. In one of the other shows, Steve Spagnuolo, obviously defensive coordinator for the Chiefs, was DC for the upset, if you will, the 16-0 Pats. But also, there's two other guys that I kind of want to bring up. One's David Merritt. He's the DB coach for the Chiefs. He was also the DB coach for both Giant Super Bowl wins. So I think that's something that should definitely people should be kind of looking at. And then the D-line coach for the Chiefs, Brendan Daly, spent time in New England as the New England defensive line coach. So with that aside, I think the big X factor I think is going to be Frank Clark, actually, because Frank Clark's good against the pass, obviously, but he's one of those few edge guys that has absolutely zero problem playing the run. And I think Costa mentioned that the running game is going to be key. I think that Frank Clark's going to have a big game playing the run.
Walter.
Yeah, I think for Tampa, Tyrann Mathieu could turn out to be a big issue for them, depending on the play call. And I think everything is going to come back to defensively. How does Tampa call? Well, offensively, how does Tampa call this game? Because they have to respect where Matthew's at. I don't care where Matthew's at, where he's lined up on the field before snap. I don't care what he does post snap. You have to always acknowledge exactly where he's at. Also, I think I'm going to go back to the defensive line. I'm not going to say so much Frank Clark. I'm going to say Chris Jones. Because if Chris Jones manages to dominate the interior of this game, it's over for Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
Because Brady has been kind of shaky, to say the least, against the blitz because he can't run. So Brady's pretty much a sitting duck back there. If they allow Chris Jones to pretty much push that pocket all the way into Brady's chest, they could have some issues. But I think that's what happened in the first game. They got enough pressure. They got enough hurries. They didn't sack him but once, I think, but they got enough hurries, and they were able to worry him enough and forced him into those 2 picks.
SK.
I'm piggybacking once again off of Walter. It's going to be, for me, Chris Jones on the defensive side. Honey Badger, I feel like, is set in stone as one of their premier DBs in the league and their premier defender. So it's going to be getting that rush on Jones. It's going to be Jones getting that rush on Brady, because we saw in the second half of that Patriots game, Brady is prone to turn the ball over this year. So if you give up the ball to Patrick Mahomes, I think he's going to be able to score, unlike the Packers did. And just looking at that offense, just looking at somebody that's really not getting a lot of hype coming into the game. I spoke to him earlier on one of the press conferences for the media availability is Tyler Johnson, and I didn't realize that he used to be a quarterback. So it was a lot of quarterback questions. So that kind of leads me to think that they might have something up their sleeve as far as the gadget play with Johnson in there, because it always seems like in the Super Bowl, it's somebody that you never heard of that gets a big play that changes the game. So it's going to be something that I'm going to look out for to see about that trick play, because there's a lot of questions about him being a former quarterback, and that kind of got my mind turning back to that. Was it Randall L to Hines Ward in the
Super Bowl 40?
Yeah, so I kind of got my mind rolling of, you used to be a quarterback, they might sneak you in there, nobody thinks about something, and you can cause a big play that can turn the game. So that'll be something to worry about on their offense, because Mike Evans, Godwin, clearly Scotty Miller too can take the top off the defense. So I feel like, if you can bottle those up, it's going to be somebody throw in a gadget play that can affect the game.
Kendall.
I think starting with the Chiefs, the defense. I think Mike Pennell, Chris Jones, and Frank Clark, all three of them, they're gonna need to have some big games. And I think Frank Clark, I think he's due for a big game, maybe a strip sack, a couple sacks and whatnot. Him and Tom Brady, and Chris Jones, they don't really like each other. The past two meetings, they've kind of gone back and forth with each other. I remember Tom Brady's game and his last season with the Patriots. Him and Chris Jones, when the Chiefs came in there, they beat us. That the night they tried to say that we had something to do with the Chiefs equipment not been at the stadium and whatnot, but the Chiefs came in there and they whooped it. They beat us pretty bad that night. And Chris Jones and he sacked Tom Brady a couple of times, hit him late a few times, and him and Tom Brady were joining back and forth. And then earlier this year, we had the same thing happen again. So keep an eye on that. On Mike Pennell, I think his name goes on the radar. He's a pretty good player. I think he's a pretty good player. I think he might have something to do with this game. A couple run stops, and if he can get out to Brady, it'll be good for the Chiefs. Offensively, I think Antonio Brown, I think he's due for a breakout game too. He's due for a breakout game. The Chiefs secondary they're okay. You got Bashar Breeland back there. You got the Honey Badger. But other than that, you don't really have anybody that's going to scare you. You know what I mean? So
their rookies playing pretty good football.
His name is Sneed or Sheed, something.
L'Jarius Sneed.
Yeah. He's playing pretty good, but it's Tom Brady.
Ward has played better this season too. Ward has played a lot better.
Yeah,
he has.
Yeah, so I think and kind of like what SK say, Tyler Johnson. The Bucks they got Scotty Miller and they got Tyler Johnson coming off the bench. They don't necessarily and AB, Evans, and Godwin. We've seen they don't have a big game. We've seen Tyler Johnson make a couple big catches. We've seen Scotty Miller come up with some deep balls and some pretty good catches. So we saw what he did at Green Bay. So I think it's gonna be a collective effort for Tampa Bay. But I think with Kansas City defense, I think they're gonna be the game changer. Everybody wants to talk about the flashy offense. Kansas City defense is not that bad. The second is you got them. They got their misses in the secondary. They got a couple problems back there. But if they can get after the pressure, like Chris Jones or Frank Clark can have a big game, like they did last year in the Super Bowl against Garoppolo, Tom Brady's in for a long day.
Costa.
Yeah, so I'm actually just going to talk about who we brought up right here. I've been planning on talking about L'Jarius Sneed, the cornerback from Louisiana Tech, because for me, I think that he's really going to be an X factor actually for this Chiefs defense, because he's been offering them really solid play this whole year. And you don't get to the Super Bowl without having one or two rookies, actually really multiple rookies, stepping up and having good seasons. And then you don't win the Super Bowl without them stepping up in the big game too. I'm for the Bucks, you've got Tristan Wirfs, Antoine Winfield. They've had great rookie seasons, and then you've got Clyde, and you've got L'Jarius Sneed for the Chiefs. And I think that we saw that against the Packers that this Bucks offense can really generate those big plays. And in the Super Bowl, that game can really be swung by a couple big plays on one side of the ball or on the other. And so I think he's really got to show up like he has been all season and not allow that one or two big plays, because that could really lead to a loss if that happens. So I think that he's really going to be key for them. And yeah, I think that as you guys have alluded to, there's probably going to be a guy on the Bucks offense, maybe Tyler Johnson, maybe Antonio Brown, that's going to really have a game almost out of nowhere to set them up for in a good position. So I think that the Chiefs defense really can't be prioritizing on anyone. It's not all due respect to the top guys on the Bucks offense, like Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, but there's no Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce where you really have to focus on those couple guys, because the Bucks really have a lot of guys that can beat you. Gronk also could have a breakout game. So it's just you really got to watch out for anyone on that offense, because you don't know where it's going to be coming from on Sunday.
Real quick,
do we know how Winfield is feeling coming into the game, because he got hurt?
He's still questionable.
Yeah, he's questionable.
Still questionable.
Okay. Real quick, Walter, if you're Steve Spagnuolo, how are you playing this Tampa offense? Are you want to come after Brady like you've seen in the past, or do you want to double Godwin, a double Evans? Who's going to scare you the most? I know all of them they can beat you. All of them, you're going to get scared by all of them. But who's the number one guy you think Tom Brady's looking for?
Honestly, if I'm Kansas City, I'm playing them straight up. At least I'm playing them straight up in the beginning. I want to see what Tampa really has. I want to see what Tampa's offensive line can really do against Chris Jones and Frank Clark and that linebacker core. And if Nick Sorensen on the back end can make some plays. But yeah, pretty much I'm going to play a base defense again. I'm going to line up and I'm going to man them. And I'm going to hope that my front four, my front seven, you can mix up some blitzes. Hopefully they can get some pressure on them. If it doesn't work, you have to make adjustments. But from the beginning, I'm going to play them straight up.
All right. My next question for you guys is, who has an outstanding game for that Tampa offense, and who has an outstanding game for the Kansas City defense? Start out with Justin.
I think you could take any number of these wide receivers for the Bucs offense, right? Is what we're going over, and then the Chiefs defense. I'll say Scotty Miller or maybe even Cameron Brate. I know we've mentioned their names before, but I think they'll try everything in their power to, as Walt said, to kind of take care of Mike Evans, or maybe that guy's Antonio Brown. Who knows? So I think one of those two are going to have to step up, and then defensively for the Chiefs. I think that we've mentioned Tyrann Mathieu. We've mentioned that those corners have played well, but they're not. I don't think that they're necessarily elite corners, and so I think that Tyrann Mathieu playing all over the field is going to end up really helping that defense out in multiple ways, whether it be stopping the run or in the pass.
Walter.
Yeah, for Tampa Bay offensively, I think it's going to be Ronald Jones. I think what he can bring to the table is really going to have to get maximized today. Not today, but Sunday. And I really believe that Bruce Arians, he knows this. I don't think his ego will get involved, and he feels like he has to completely shoot it out with Kansas City, because we already know Andy Reid is going to think. He's going to think and he's going to scheme. And Bruce Arians is going to have to do the same exact thing. And defensively, I think it could be a guy just mentioned previously. I think Swanson is a guy who has a knack for just being around the football. He gave up a lot of catches this season, but he just has a knack for making the right play when it needs to be made.
SK.
Let's see. On the Buccaneers offense, I feel like Leonard Fournette has not been talked about enough this week and coming to the game. He's been very solid this postseason. He had a subpar regular season, but this postseason, looking at the stats, he has over 200 rushing yards, over 100 yards receiving as well. 3 touchdowns, 2 on the ground, 1 in the air. So I feel like he's a very underrated aspect of this offense. Not in the regular season, but in the postseason, he's become an underrated aspect of the offense and really been putting in the work. And finally, his fruits of his labors has finally been showing. And I'm going to be leaning on him to see, especially in pass protection, because I feel like they're going to definitely come at Tom Brady. So he's got to be very, very good in pass protection, and I feel like he's going to be vital in the running game as well. Not the running game, sorry, and the receiving game as well. When they bring that pressure, if he can get out to the flat, catch the ball, and pick up some yards, pick up some very gritty yards. 4 yards when you need 3 yards for a first down. He can get you 4 or 5 yards to keep that train chugging along. So on that end, I'm going to be looking at Fournette and see how his game is progression throughout the postseason, because he's been showing up. On the defensive side, I really want to go with the Honey Badger, but I feel like Brady is going to stay away from the Honey Badger this game. He knows how good he is. So I want to say Chris Jones, getting a strong rush in. But with Chris Jones and that rush and them getting a rush on him, that may lead itself the rookie DB maybe to get in there and get a pick or two and become a very vital part of that defense to show and become an X factor. So I'm going to go with Chris Jones, but I could see one of the rookie DBs benefiting from Chris Jones' pressure.
Kendall.
Tampa, I'm gonna go with Cameron Brate. I'm gonna go with my guy Cameron Brate. I think Grunt's gonna have a pretty good game. I think Cameron Brate, he might have a big game too, and it could translate to a Tampa Bay win. I'm still not giving my prediction yet, but that's probably what's gonna happen. For the defense, I think Rashad Breeland. In his last 2 games against Tom Brady, he has 2 interceptions. Tom Brady's last season in New England, when Kansas City came down there, Breeland picked the pass off from Brady, and then earlier this year, when the Chiefs came to Tampa Bay, Brady got another pick on Tom Brady. So I think, but Rashad Breeland, he's had Tom Brady's number the past 2 weeks, with the past 2 games. So I think Breeland from the defense of the Chiefs and from the offense going Cameron Brady.
Costa.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna go with the Bucs. There's so many different weapons they can use, but I'm gonna bring up a guy we surprisingly haven't talked about yet. I think Chris Godwin is going to be a guy that Brady's gonna try to go to early and often. He's good. He should be that reliable move the chains guy for the Bucs on Sunday. And if they win this game, it means they've got to be getting like crucial first down conversions from him at several points in this game. So that's been my pick on the Bucs offensive side of the ball. And for the Chiefs defense, I think we've really gone all over all the impact guys. So I'm just going to reiterate. I think Tyrann Mathieu is just such a key piece to this defense on Sunday. He's going to be having to cover several areas of the field, several different position groups, and really use his versatile skill set to make a difference. And maybe he does end up maybe getting a pick or something like that to make an impact play to get them another ring, because I really think that he needs to have an outstanding game, and I think he will show up in that way.
All right. Before we end this live stream, any final thoughts about Super Bowl 55?
What is Kansas City offensive line going to do? And what is the scheme? Because they got a lot. They got a lot on their plate dealing with that Tampa front seven.
Yeah, but if Tampa blitzes a lot, which I think they will, it's in Todd Bowles' DNA. I mean, one way you can slow a blitz down is using Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It's the screen game. Use screens to Hill. I mean, you name it. The weapons they have. Just getting their guys the ball in space quick. That's one way to slow it down and make them think twice about it. And then from that, like let's say you throw a bunch of bubble screens to Tyreek Hill, then you have a bubble slip to like a Nicole Hardman. Everyone's thinking, oh, it's the bubble, it's coming again, and then it's over top to whichever Chiefs receiver you want.
For me, I think I'm gonna go. Would this finally be the Le'Veon Bell big game, the breakthrough game?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I don't think so either. But that's what makes it intriguing.
Darrell Williams.
This is the Clyde.
Maybe he been saving some magic for the Super Bowl. I don't know. Well, maybe this is the time. This could be the Bell.
He's been saving that magic for a couple of years now.
It seems like it. But maybe we can get the old Pittsburgh Steelers Le'Veon Bell to show up. I mean, I know he's here. We just got to find him. I don't know where he's been at.
All right.
I just want to say this.
Go ahead.
Devin White is fastly becoming the best linebacker in football.
Agree.
Fastly.
Agree.
Like when you go back and watch that, either the All 22,
I can
Green Bay game.
He's top tier.
You know what though? Hey, he owes Vita Vea and Sue a lot of money in front of him.
Yep.
Because they allow him to just run sideline to sideline free all day long.
How big was Vita Vea coming back? That was huge for that Tampa's defense.
Big.
All right, and with that being said, thank you everyone.
I got quick input, Fidel. Just real quick.
Go ahead.
Just saying how Tom Brady has been playing sporadically up and down. I think he has just under 60% passing completion. Do y'all feel that y'all can truly put the game in his hands still at this age, seeing what he has produced in these last few games? Has it really been Brady that's been leading the team, or has it been other aspects carrying Brady?
No, it's Tom.
It's the Super Bowl. This one will be
this year. Of course, Brady overall, but this year.
Super Bowl?
Okay.
It's Tom.
It's the Super Bowl. It's going to be Brady.
But would anybody be really shocked if Brady threw a pick or two?
I mean, but
well, he threw 3 picks in the championship game.
Not at all.
Hey, and he still won.
Exactly. He threw 3 picks. That's why
Brady's been known.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's about winning. But Brady gave last game, Brady gave Green Bay a chance to win. It's just Green Bay and the defense of the Bucs that really helped them win. Brady didn't necessarily. I mean, the first half, he had a great first half. Don't get me wrong.
But SK, he did make some crucial
what
throws.
I've been worried about lately.
He did make some crucial throws in the fourth quarter as well. And I know they didn't score a touchdown, but still, that led him to get that 3 points that ended up kind of being the difference in the game.
I agree with that. Brady's been known for in the Super Bowl to have some of his biggest performances. I mean, look, last time he was in the Super Bowl with the Rams, it wasn't a good performance for him. He threw a pick on the first drive, and he got bailed out by his coach, by Coach Belichick, like Belichick has done multiple times. He had to bail Tom Brady out. So I mean, and Brady now he's with Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians, he's a lot more of a harder coach. So I'm glad. I know Belichick is at home right now, but I'm glad he doesn't have to worry about bailing Brady out anymore. It's gonna be Bruce Arians' time.
I do feel that the running game is going to be a big part of what Tampa does on Sunday, though.
Agree.
All right. Any final thoughts before we end this live stream? All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.
Sure.